Morning. Hope you had a good Shabbos. It's great being in the Edinburgh Shul. They are a blessing to this world. They welcome me so warmly, and how can I not express my gratitude to all those amazing Chabad Hasidim, mostly Baal Teshuvas, which or the children of them, or it's did a nice kiddush there. I spoke a bit. Welcome. I always have to give my 2 cents. Thank you. I always have to get my opinion in when I'm at a Farbringen, because at least hear it. If you want to know whether an endeavor is worthwhile, you have to at least examine the payoff. What is the reward that it's going to give to you? What are you going to get out of it? You don't end it for sure in a business deal. You don't get involved with it unless you crunch the numbers. Because if it's about money, you could quantify it. Quantify risk. If we're going to know what the endeavor of Malach Arts, Deya Es Hashem, the Asek Kolam, the entire world will be involved with just to know Hashem, just to experience infinity. How do we esteem that as the ultimate aspiration? And what is the ultimate point, and what is the ultimate, the finale of history? Where are we destined to go? What is this 620 pillars, the Taryag mitzvahs and the 7 rabbinical mitzvahs, worth it? If the reward is something that you don't understand, you might say, it's not worth it to me. If it's the true path, you will learn that lesson ultimately. But let's at least consider, what is the ultimate point? That's what the last words the Rabbi said in this time of year. He said, the lexicon of Hasidus explains it in this way, that the main ultimate point of reward is the experience of Tainug Beira, Hashem's pleasure. And we explained about what that means. And we cited a mimer of the Rebbe Maharash, the Kacha. It's a Pesach mimer. It explains the difference between that redemption and the future redemption. Whereas the exodus from Egypt was in a frenzy, they had to wear their loins girded tight and a stick in hand while they ate the matzah, and then they were told that they should go. They didn't have to run, it says in this. They didn't have to run out of exile. In terms of, they weren't poking spears and saying, get out of here. They were saying, okay, leave. This is your chance. And but we felt like we had to run, not because we thought that we were going to get kidnapped again, but because we were kidnapped already. We were addicted to a foreign culture that was about to eradicate any holiness that was left in the world, and we had to run away from it. It says, in contrast, that final redemption is one where you won't have to run away, you'll walk out of it. And what that means. So this is a treatise that is massive. It's a hemshech. It's a continued, the Rebbe had a theme that he continued week after week, starting on Pesach time. So you'll see the connection, how it's going to start with that. But it becomes our way to understand what is it all about, and what is the point? What is the compensation for our efforts, and what is God's intent with all that? Tainu Beira. That's where I think the Rebbe is pointing us towards. So here is this thing. It was too revolutionary for me not to just start from the beginning. We're going to do some parts a bit faster because I want to emphasize how this relates to what we're facing now, Yom Kippur, and the ultimate. Welcome, Joel. Good to see you. The ultimate marriage of the Jewish people with Hashem is Yom Kippur. That's when we got the second set of tablets, the permanent ones. The betrothal with this gift of wisdom. Anyways, this is the Rebbe Marash. It's rich. It's filled with ecstasy, the way he's writing this. Eat the paschal lamb with a frenzy. It says, the sages teach in this. That redemption was in a frenzy, but the other one's not going to be that way. So the sages interpret this. This was the frenzy of the Egyptians, who wanted to send them out. Okay, that seems to contradict what I said before, but consider the way it unfolds. And that frenzy began at midnight. There's two opinions, whether it is the frenzy of the Egyptians to send us or our own initiative to get out of their fast. Ein Sham Perish Rashi. Vatzarich lahavin eich yechaluk al mikras mefershim debiyashaya. It seems to contradict something said in Isaiah. It says, Ki loy b'chipazim teitzeu. You're not going to go out in a frenzy. Interestingly, we do relate the future redemption to the redemption from Egypt in terms of miracles, that it's going to be miraculous even in comparison to the miraculous redemption from Egypt. So there is a connection, but there is this very pronounced distinction that we're not going to go in a frenzy. It seems like we all have to run away from all the things that the world wants to draw us into, but that's not so. After the birur is over, we shed our snake skin. It says you're not going to go in a frenzy and you're not going to run away. Indicating that it's in distinction to the Exodus from Egypt, which was in a frenzy. And another source says, it says, the Tzemach Tzedek quotes it elsewhere, his father. Sheyatzu Maher, that the Egyptians, so according to the opinion that the Egyptians were the ones that were frantic, as it says, V'yimaharu l'shalchum, and they made a very urgent decision to get them out and to follow through with that. It still resonates to say that the Jewish people were in their own type of panic to get out. And there is this dichotomy of two ways. Is it the Egyptians that were in the frenzy or the Jewish people? Those two perspectives are traced back in many different sources here. It says, it says that the dog didn't wag his tongue at the Jewish people. I don't mind if a dog's wagging its tongue or its tail. Just don't bite me. Or don't bark. It's enough. Barking is like also an offensive thing to do. So here we see that in some ways it wasn't about the Egyptians that were casting them out or their dogs, but their own frenzy, you have to say. And what does that mean, and how does that reflect on the future redemption that is not going to be from a running away from anything? It's just that we're going to understand the proper place for things and sweep them up as required. So it says in the Medrash that Ba'ilam haza kesha'achlu Yisrael as ha-Pesach achlu eisei b'chipazim. In our history, when we ate the Paschal sacrifice, we ate it in a frenzy. Ayin Sham, look at there. Ki b'chipazim yatzas in Eretz Yisrael. As it says, you went out in a chipazim. Avalasi lavle, but in the future to come, ki loy b'chipazim teitzu. You're not going to go out in a frenzy, and you won't run away. Umashma b'rabbeis shamsha b'chazinu mashe hiskinu atzim v'layla l'tzes v'ashkama. And the Medrash implies that their urgency was preparing themselves at night to get up early in the morning to get out of there. V'hainu al derek mashakazu v'sei perak yud ches beilam haza asa lahem nes. So they had a miracle in the nighttime, shehu nes eiver, which was a passing cracking of reality. Avalasid love, but in the future to come, it's going to be different. It's not going to be transient. It's not going to be temporary. Welcome, Arabelle. Lasid Lavi, there's going to be a transformation that comes from bottom up, not top down. The Exodus from Egypt was a top down mission. It was like riding it with a drone. But in the future to come, halayla nasayim, there won't be night in the future redemption. It's going to be daylight. Everything is going to be open and lit. Shenemar v'haya er halavana ke'er hachama, as it says that the light of the moon, which the Jewish people are like the emblem, our emblem is the moon because we count according to the moon, not the sun. And that will be like the light of the sun, that moon. In the first redemption, the prototype of all the redemptions, Hashem came down with his court to mete out justice in King Tut's turf. As it says, Hashem walked before them, meaning him and his accoutrement of judges. Like in Pink Floyd's The Wall, they got like Havdil. They had those, funny decorated judges. Hashem came down with the Lahavdil, the holy version of that, the angels and such. Avalasid lavli ani levadi. But in the future redemption, it's going to be Hashem alone, without the whole based in the judgmentalism coming into the picture. Hashem is going to do it. Each person is going to achieve their own personal redemption. From Hashem, I mean, without the other voices in the peanut gallery. Ki Hashem, as it says, because Hashem is going before you. That is from Yeshaya, Isaiah. Im ken mavur dahai taima shelo yatsa b'chipozin ki haylek nechem Hashem levadei. If that is so, then you would understand the previous debate that the sages had about, was it the Egyptians that wanted us out, or we who wanted to get out fast? That those who say that they did not go out in a frenzy is because Hashem was going before them. Levadei, alone. That seems to contradict the other opinion. As the end of the verse indicates. The fact that they went out in a frenzy from Egypt, this is because Hashem was walking before them, him and his court. Therefore, you have to say that it's the Jews who went out in a frenzy. And the connection of the frenzy has to do with the fact that the Beis Din was with Hashem, the judges were with him, which is the attribute of Malchus, sovereignty, Shehi Midas Laila, which is the night. So the Egyptian Exodus, the miracles happened in the night, because it's a miracle that happened in regards to Malchus, the state of God's sovereignty at the time. Remember, his nation was enslaved. The fact that they went out at night, in the nighttime, itself is a frenzy. Look at the horrible things the Jews underwent in getting up in the middle of the night with dogs barking. Here, the dogs didn't even bark. But it happened at night, is what I'm saying. And this answers the fact that it says in Maseh, it says that the day after Pesach, they ate the Paschal lamb, that is, the Jewish people went out with the high raised hand. Asher Yad Rama, this raised hand, Zehu Hafek buzzing. I see Siri trying to listen in now. What did I say? I didn't know that Siri had such interest in... On it. Yes, my Siri's from India. We can control the voice of our AI that we're going to be speaking to. It says we went out with a high hand. So that was talking about the next day. The night is when they were getting ready to go out, and that was the frenzy in the daytime. Then they went out with a mighty hand. In the daytime, you don't need to rush as much and to search about for everything with the little flashlight that you look for crumbs in Pesach. Doesn't it say about Pesach that is a day that was guarded? We were guarded. Shalil Pesach hilel shimurim. So why are we afraid of the night in that Exodus? That it becomes a symbol of panic. And now we call it was a night that was guarded. So why was there a panic? The very fact that the narrative tells you that it was a night that was guarded says it was a night that was dangerous and they needed to be guarded. And it was guarded to the point that it was called this night. Which was like day. That's why it's this night. When you see something clearly as night, that's also a daylight, isn't it? To know what is darkness. That's also very revealing. As it says on that very day. So it was Hayim Hazeh, that day. Halayla Hazeh, Halayla Hazeh. It's also Be'etzem Hayim Hazeh. The night was lit. V'ksiv B'yim Hazeh Bo Midbar Sinai. And it says they came into the desert of Sinai on the day. Ki B'yim Hazeh Yechaper. Because on that day you shall be atoned. Okay, there's my Yom Kippur connection. V'im Ki Lel Shemurimu. Although it is a night that was guarded, I can't. Nevertheless, since there was needed to be guarded. What were they need to be guarded from? The Egyptians were finished. It wasn't them. That wasn't the guarding that we needed. We didn't need a better security system or LED lights or something. We needed to be withheld from the forces that were attracting us to that land we didn't want to go. It was an excuse to live licentiously, to live amongst such heathens. And we didn't want to be taken away from that. So they had to go in a frenzy. Now it's going to be different. This is why it's so important for us to focus on this. And I'm going through I can't say the whole thing, and sometimes I get distracted with other things, but I at least want to go to like 12 where the Rebbe cited, and then 13 and 14 chapter. So we were afraid of Yanikas Chitzanim, that the superficial forces, the obstructive forces in the world will get nourishment from this. Shelo yikablu ma'acheshek v'hesder. We needed to be guarded from the darkness that we were coming out of. L'chen yatzu b'chipazim ve'inim b'chinas midas lailahu. The fact that it was nighttime, hu b'gdei liyais b'chinas am melashen imminent, to reflect that this nighttime they were becoming a nation. And the word nation, means imminent, the dregs, or the embers, the cinders. Dvarim zarim v'nifradim. Anyways, another event. It is things that are the settling things at the bottom of your wine. Things that are separate, and they find their right place. Therefore, because darkness is darkness, it has the power to nourish from any type of experience, and they could appear at any celebration, invited or not, because that's darkness. And look up the Medrash where it says, Ki cheshach yechase aretz, that the darkness covered the earth. And look at the Pardes, Erech Cheshach, speaks about darkness in different places in Kabbalah. Therefore, the exodus from Egypt was going out from that darkness, meaning that there was darkness in the world, and they had to get out of there quick. So it was not destroyed. The evil was not transformed or extinguished. They went out in a way of saying, I'm going to run away from this. That's the way they went out of Egypt. Get me out of here already. Escathia. Submitting to a higher wisdom painfully. Al-kan sarik livroyach min hara, which made them have to run away from evil, in order to not be drawn after it, God forbid. And look it up in 31 of Tanya. Okay, that's chapter 1. Let's do another. It's a Sunday. Chill out a bit with me. It gets to talk about the whole purpose of reward. That's where we're going. So if you're not going to frenzy, that has an aspect of reward, and it makes the exodus from Egypt just the prototype, the beginning, and the real redemption is meant to be permanent and transformative, as opposed to imposed and saved from the machinery of above. Rather that we sort of toiled the earth for enough till the earth itself becomes refined and we don't have to fear earthiness anymore. It finds its rightful place and seen in the correct light. The darkness itself will shine and there will be health in everything. And it will unfold in an organic, natural way as opposed to being blasted into a new reality. the Rebbe Maharash continues in chapter 2. To understand what this frenzy is, ki'inenhu beis dinai, because this has to do with the judges being present in this Exodus. The heavenly court came with Hashem. That the movement of the soul is drawn according to the role of angels. Your soul is inspired or shining through to you on the basis of what the angels sort of interface. That is the interface between the height of consciousness. Kenesher Yalari Kanai describes this angelic movement or effect on the soul is like the eagle wakening his nest. So you have like a nestling bird, chickling, and the mother eagle coming down to stir us. So that's the angels stirring our souls. As it says on the concept of ki malachi v'yitzal velach. I never understood what that means. The angels will command you. It's more like they'll take command and help you. V'hainu ki hanefesh b'hamas min shmarei fanim. So this is to say that, so what is the mechanics here with your personality? You have an animal volition, I guess. Something that animates you, that's animalistic in character, and a divine character. So here, the animal persona, it comes from the dregs of the Afanim. Angels have waste that they cast out of their spiritual realm, and that comes down into our Lamborghinis in this world. That the ultimate source for these forces in the world is animalistic desire for producing waste. The shmarei ha'ifanim, the dregs, the nefesh habamis is driven by that. You give like your cow what was left over from the children. So there's a supernal cow that's actually on this heavenly chariot, and that's lifting up God's throne. Welcome. And that's why we say 2 blessings before we say Shema in the morning's services. Some people say. I never liked that word. It made me think of like some teacher that's looking over me, whether I'm looking in the page properly. That in these blessings that we say in our davening every morning, we're telling about this incredible state of submission that the angels have before Hashem. So Hashem creates these very powerful forces, and they all submit themselves to Hashem. In order to create a world whereby there is something that inspires. This is intended to inspire your nefesh bahamas, your animal soul. To teach it that its hunger is good. The bittul of the malachim, their submission before Hashem, is, I guess if you're going to submit to something, it should be the source of everything, by nature. So that nature expressed resonates to the lower frequencies like our nefesh habamis, what we desire. That it too should come to thirst and love. And look it up where it speaks about in the Tzemach Tzedek, his father, that it says, I have given to you to be a traveler amongst these standstill people, the still lives. And since the nefesh bahamas, the animal character, still had not been refined in the Exodus from Egypt, the prototype of the future redemption, but different here. And that's why that Exodus had to be in a frenzy. But in the future to come, and this is what I love it, because it describes what is the Rebbe talking about. We've finished the final rectifications of the world. It's all completed. What would that look like? So the Rebbe said we have to open our eyes. So if we did, what would we see? This describes that, and I find that fascinating. Therefore, since at that time the nefesh habahamis had not been rectified, and therefore it had to be zapped into shape at that time, and it was temporary. But after generations of working on that, and finally reaching the time where the medicine starts to work, in other words, all the effort that we did is about to be rewarded. The Rebbe said it's already started that time. But in the future to come, when we've already rectified our character, what do you do then? Then you don't need a walking stick. You don't need these angels showering you with new, zapping you with energy that you can be inspired for a time and then bow down to a golden calf a few days later. But the whole apparatus that's driving us to those places is going to be holy and woke. Woke Jewish. You won't need help in walking. Ki imhu levade. That means you won't need help from the beist and the judgmentalism that comes with the angel system that came with Hashem in the first Exodus. The future redemption is characterized by Hashem losing the retinue, the entourage that he comes with his heavenly court. It's entirely a direct connection with Hashem without the fanfare of the angels getting involved. It's after we've fixed the whole kli, the whole vessel that was shining, was obscuring the shine of the soul. Now it's actually the ultimate source of shining. We'll see. So when the nefesh habahamis, our animalistic self-interests, are correct and expressive of this alignment, this high fidelity to Hashem, then you won't need any help. Ki imhu levade, except from Hashem himself. Ein makmacher be'inyan levar megurka, v'reishis chochma. Salik b'lei ezer hamalachim, going up without the help of angels. That's, okay, then this gets, it answers a question that we've had all along. What does it mean? Therefore, in the future to come, the promise is that the angels will say, holy before the tzaddikim. Until now, they just do it before Hashem. So it will be that the angels will say that to the tzaddikim as well. There's a source in the Gemara Basra, 75b, and some other sources. V'teichen beis haperushim echad haim, and the meaning of both of these interpretations are one. Because at that time, from Egypt, our nefesh habahamis, our character, was still stuck. They've had to therefore run from evil. Because this frenzy means, as we say in the verse in Shmuel Aleph, it says the generation was in a panic to follow Shaul's rules. He was a very strict leader. And that means that they were alert. V'kenani amarti v'chipazi, as it says in Tehillim, I said in my state of alertness, my chipazi, the same word as chipazim, frenzy. Matzino gamkan chipazim lashon yira. It also means reverence. Al tiru val tachpazu. Don't fear and do not be panicked. Tichpazu. Nivhulu nechpazu. Until in another place it says they were bewildered and panicked. Mikel Ramcha chipazim, another place in Tehillim it says, from the sound of your thunder there was a frenzy. Ach haradak t'machlel erech chepes perish she'akel inachad. The Radak explains that all this is one idea, which all has to do with being fearful of something and therefore being engaged and moving because of that fear. So too a person runs away from evil, in fear of sin, which is the fear of being drawn after it, chas v'shalom. It says, Yaakov says of his son Reuben, his firstborn, that he was pachas kemayim, he was frenzied like the waters, like white water rafting. Perish Rashi gamken lashon hiras, and Rashi interprets it to mean fast. As it says in Shaftim, it says people that were empty and agitated, chipazim. Perish Rashi Bailim. Rashi interprets it to mean that they were bewildered. They were in the meta. V'masam la'aseis bli tfuna, doing things without understanding what they're doing. Okay, talk about descriptive of our times. Imkem karavhu le'inin chipazim. So these interpretations all have the same meaning. V'ken ksav mitzas. Tzedek, I'm not sure. Sham v'ken machlo b'hago erech pachas l'gabe chipazim t'siv gamken nivchlu nechpazu canal. So it's a bewilderment of mind also, this frenzy. It's not one that's absorbed. The difference between our redemption is it's going to involve bina. We'll see. V'ken mitzina mikra keves kesev. So chipazim has a meaning when you change the letters a little bit, and he gives many examples of how that plays out and has sources. I'm just going to skip a little bit of it. So there's an interpretation in the Shnei Luchais Habris HaKadosh that when it says frenzy, when it's talking about redemption, it's something good in Egypt. As you would see from the fact that it's said, don't go out in a frenzy in another place, and look it up there where he speaks about this at length. Nespar iti asi shapir shabitzias mitzrayim shahaya Rabbi takvay. So this goes well with the way we explained it, that when they went out of Egypt, the evil still had control over them. Tzarich adam livroyach minara, and they had to be on the alert so they could run away from that. Shalayim shaf acharav, to not succumb to it. So that certainly is a good thing. The fact that they were so engaged that they could summon the strength to actually pull themselves away from their idols. I mean here, the Ervas Haaretz. That was necessary. That they are engaged, active, to speedily escape the evil that was still there, because they really didn't want to sin in such a holy moment. It wouldn't have been right if they kissed their idols goodbye, because that's not a goodbye, is it? Like, I never understand. Bachelor parties make no sense whatsoever. How are you celebrating things by denigrating the thing? That is horribly. It's reminds me of something else in the Torah, but it's a negative image. So let's. In the future redemption, where there's no place at all for evil, to have a grip on the Jewish souls, they won't have to run. Then any urgency that they summon has to be only meant in a positive light, because they're not running away. It's more of a running towards. For the reason I will explain Be'ezras Hashem with God's help. Have a great day.